Hello and welcome to less than 1 week away from World Championship Rocket League. Right now we're going to be doing the same video we did for EU and NA this week, but for MENA and SAM. Let's see which teams are playing the most ranked, which players are playing the most 2v2 ranked, and get a feel for what we can expect from these teams going into this major. Falcons. We've got ROC on 773 games. You can see that in the bottom right here on the screen. I think this direction for me. Then you've got Clears at 761. So the Twins are very close together, less than 10 games different. They must have the same schedule or something, right? And then TRK is at 660. Now, all of these metrics were pulled yesterday, so it is possible there's some extra games for every player now that everyone's pretty much in France and boot camping, but these should be pretty accurate to the season 19 start. So Twisted Minds, you got Nobu at 977, so more than those Falcons players, but keep in mind we saw some of the EU and NA players with over 1,000 matches, so Nobu's kind of right there. Atomic with a K, 807 matches, and Rise with 584 matches. So more matches for Nobu and Atomic, not quite as many for Rise, but still good numbers based on what we've seen. Now ROC, this is the play-in team, or the qualifier team. You've got Abdullah, 940. He's right up there with Nobu. 682 for Ghazi, and 341 for Twiz. Now, I have to be a tiny bit concerned because obviously anything lower than like 500 is less than pretty much what all the other pros are doing. The pros are doing like 600 or 700 matches. So anyone who's doing less than that, I do feel the need to kind of elevate them and call them out. Obviously, Twiz is a very talented player. So not too worried about him, but it's one of those things where, you know, he's probably like a full-time student or has a job or does something where they're not able to grind the game 6 or 8 hours a day and get all these matches. So I just have to highlight it because 341 compared to his teammates 940 is a pretty big difference, almost 3 times as many. Now let's talk about SAM. Furia, definitely grinding the game. Yan has 1,171 rank 2, so as you keep in mind, the closest in MENA was like 940, 950, somewhere in that range. Drafinho has 1,052, so not as much as Yan, but right up there. And Lost has 614, so Lost is definitely lower than his 2 teammates. Kind of an interesting thing, right? Where it's like, how do you... I don't know. Everyone's different. Some people like to play free play, but it does seem like if your 2 teammates are over 1,000 and you're at 600, you expect there's definitely a different approach to the game there. Team Secret, we've got Mata at 837. Swift at 747, and KV1 at 390. So I also have to highlight him being a little bit on the lower side compared to some of these other pros. And obviously Team Secret doesn't have as many ranked games as Furia has. I think there is an element that Team Secret, you know, they're not as much of a 2v2 grinder as Furia is, but they're still getting decent games in here. Let's talk about Made in Brazil, otherwise known as the former ex-Corinthians roster. You got Drops with 503, Brad with 351. Oops, sorry, I skipped over Raise Bull accidentally there. Raise Bull has 740. He's the most on the team. Drops has 503. And Brad has 351, so a little bit lower also. So some of these players we're seeing here from these regions have about half as many games as the others, which is kind of interesting. So how does that break out on who's playing the most 2v2 matches in Season 19 in preparation for Worlds? You got Yan leading the way at 1,171. If you remember from the EU video we did, Joyo's at about 1,300, 1,300. So Joyo's still winning more matches. And we'll take a look at the overall leaderboard after this. Drafinho's at 1,052. Nobu's at 977. Abdullah's at 940. And Mata's at 837. So we are seeing the 2 top are from the same team. So, you know, Furia, I think they're feeling like this is a tournament for them to prove themselves. And they're grinding the game 2v2 mode. Now, how's that break out for teams? Well, because two of the three players of Furia are the number 1 and number 2 between MENA and SAM of total 2v2 matches. Furia, of course, has the highest average count at 945, which is awesome. And if Lost was a little higher than 600, obviously that number would be even higher. Then second place after that is Twisted Minds at 789. They're kind of boosted because Nobu has a bunch of 2v2 games. Then Falcons are third place at 731. Then Team Secret, then Team ROC, and then at the bottom, Made in Brazil, 531. Almost 60% or so of the amount that Furia has, so it'll be interesting to see. I've seen a lot of really positive comments about Made in Brazil's roster. People really believe in them, especially on LAN. But clearly they have the least amount of 2v2 matches in this season, so it'll be interesting to see if that has any impact in their game. Now, let's talk about overall MENA versus SAM. Now, what's interesting is MENA overall has a higher average match count than SAM does at 725 versus SAM having 711. And if I go back, you'll see that's because the MENA teams are all at least in the 600s, 654, 731, 789. Whereas in SAM, it's really Furia, like way above everyone else, then Team Secret kind of in the middle, and then Made in Brazil at the bottom. So that actually drags the average of the region below. So therefore, MENA is technically, these three MENA teams are technically playing more 2v2 ranked. If every team from SAM looked like Furia, then SAM would obviously have more average. But as of right now, MENA has more across those three teams. So really quick, because this isn't the perfect way to do it, but I'm here on tracker.gg or tracker.network, however you want to call it, and I'm looking at the ranked 2v2 matches on all platforms. You're gonna have to ignore, I believe this is a DDoSer. I could be totally wrong about that. And we're kind of looking at this matches played column of the top 100. So you can see another interesting way to look at this is not only who's playing the most, but who has the most MMR, who has the most points in ranked and kind of is at the top of the game. You've got NAS leading the way, currently the highest ranked 2v2 player in the world, because I believe this person is a cheater. They've got 1,165 matches, so NAS is definitely grinding the 2v2 rank game, but he's always been a 2v2 like star. That's always been one of the things he does really well. After that, you've got TRK at 669. You've got Zen at just breaking over 1,000. Tempo is a good player, but he's obviously not on these teams. You've got some DDoSers. This guy's country is Australia? No, Antarctica. Wow. That just shows the American education system that I said Australia instead of Antarctica when I saw the flag. Anyways, you've got Vatira, also top 10, 865. Ato at 1,016. Magic Bear is way up there. Look at Magic Bear being top 10 worldwide. Good for him. 25-17 at 763 matches. Are we going to see something amazing from Magic Bear? He's rated higher than Daniel right now. And Daniel is another one of those players that has a reputation of not playing as much 2v2, but clearly you can see he's got 700 matches. So he's right up there. Rawas has right underneath him with 800 matches. Nobu is underneath them with 979 matches. So you can kind of just go through here and see. I like to just look for the ones with commas. So like Cheese is over 1,000, Yan's over 1,000. Eugen obviously not playing in this one. Yeah, sorry. I had to double think that. Yeah, Gentlemate's not in here. 1,188. Grandma is a MENA player, I'm pretty sure. 1,090. Juke, I believe he's on BDS. I could be wrong about that. 1,236. Davin, I think, is a streamer. I could be wrong about that. Scribbles, not as high MMR. Interesting that he's got UK for his country. 1,220 for the youngster from NA. Wavy's over 1,000. Wavy's also always been like a 2v2, 1v1 grinder. Joyo is at 1344. I believe he is still the highest on the list. So it'll be interesting to see that. We've got LJ at 1195. Yeah, here's Twiz, like the guy we were talking about earlier. He's above Radosin on MMR, but sorry, has like 600 less matches. So it's kind of interesting, right? Because obviously these players can hang. It's not like if you play more, you will rank higher. Like we're clearly not seeing. There's probably a correlation here, but it doesn't. It's not like you're seeing the players that have over 1,000 matches are all in the top 10, right? Like some of these 1,000 match players are, top 100, but they're not top 50. And so it's kind of up to you to decide how important is this 2v2 metric. I think it's really interesting to look at. I think it's also another element of excitement because you get to see how much your favorite players are putting into the game in the 2v2 game mode. Obviously, this doesn't count any time in scrim, doesn't count any time in free play. So, take it with a grain of salt. But let me know what you think. Were you surprised with how much Sam is playing the game? Are you surprised that MENA had a higher average or Sam had a lower average, but Sam had the #1 team here? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Going to be more Worlds content coming out soon. We are less than a week away from the first kickoff, and I'm super excited for it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the support. Received a ton of really positive comments on the last couple videos. Thank you so much for that. It's really, really, really appreciated. Take care. Talk soon. Bye.